Election Day is less than a week away, and already 30 million Americans have cast a ballot. Our latest PBS NewsHour NPR Marist poll is giving us a look at the landscape and the key issues that are playing out in the midterm elections. Lisa Desjardins is here to walk through the results. Lisa, hello.
Hello, I got the results right here.
You do, and there's a lot to talk about, a lot to report on. So here we are 6 days out. What are the polls telling us?
Who's going to win? That's the question everyone wants to know, right? We asked, of course, in this election, do you prefer Republicans or Democrats? Let's look at where the country is right now in this poll. It does not get closer than that. 46% of Americans in our survey saying Democrats, 46% Republican. That little tiny gray space in the middle, that's the 8% who didn't have a preference either way. Now, we'll say, Judy, this looks like a dead heat. When you ask voters who say, I will definitely vote, Republicans have a slight advantage, just a little one, but it's really just as close as it could be in this election. So we wanted to know, of course, what's on voters' mind, what's going to affect who they vote for. And we look at the issues, and here's what we know right now voters are thinking about. If you look by party, Republicans say inflation is their top concern, 54%. Independents also, 40%. Democrats, look at that number there. 42% of Democrats now say that the issue that gets the most attention from them, preserving democracy. Judy, that is a significant change from just a few months ago when the top issue for Democrats was abortion. Now, there are still a number of Democrats, I think about a third of Democrats, top of mind is abortion, but that issue was really driving some enthusiasm for Democrats that we just don't see in the poll anymore.
And it's kind of a negative motivation under that heading. So, Lisa, in a close election, it is often turnout. It's who turns out to vote. What are the polls telling us about that?
Well, first of all, I should say something that we also noticed in this poll was that President Biden's approval rating, President Trump's approval rating are the same. So that's a mark of enthusiasm that we usually look at, but they're dead tied right now, both the current and former presidents. When we asked who is actually going to come out to vote by party, here's what we see right now at this moment. Democrats, 82% of them say they will definitely vote. Republicans, more, 88%. Independents seem the least enthusiastic right now at 73%. Now, those numbers don't look all that different between Democrats and Republicans, but overall, we asked Lee Miringoff, who's the director of the poll at the Marist Institute for Public Opinion, what kind of picture is emerging from this? And this is what he told us.
The current winds are blowing more Republican in this poll than Democratic. The Republican electorate is more showing greater interest at this point than the Democratic electorate is, and the Republican interest has grown. And we're also seeing that when we look at definite voters as opposed to the registered electorate as a whole, that has a slightly more Republican flavor to it.
So let's drill down on those definite voters. Those are really your most guaranteed voters. Everyone else, it could be a bad day, they might not show up. Here's what we're talking about that is a problem for Democrats right now. Let's look at some of their key groups that we see vote in highest numbers by Democratic. Black voters, 67% only say they will definitely vote. Latino, 69%. Of course, we talked about that when we were in Nevada last week. Generation Z, millennials, younger voters, only 65% saying that they will definitely vote. Those are key, high proportion voters for Democrats. Let's look at some other groups. On the other hand, white evangelicals, 89% of those who generally do vote more Republican are planning to definitely vote. And then the group I'm watching the most, white college graduates. Look at that figure, 95% planning to vote definitely. And Judy, in this poll, we saw a shift in their opinion. College graduates in general are moving away from Democrats, now just 55% saying they're voting Democrat versus 65 last month. So that also is a problem for the Democratic Party this election.
And that changed just in the last month.
I'm sorry, in the last 2 months, since the end of August.
In the last 2 months. So finally, overlaying this, Lisa, is something you alluded to earlier. It's the critical question of how do people feel about the fairness of the election system? What do you see?
Well, we'll be watching this in real time on Election Day, of course, as will the whole country. We asked people in this poll, how confident are you that this election will be fair and accurate? Here's what we got by party. Look at that difference. 62% of Democrats say they are very confident. Only 30% of Republicans. Now, when you ask, are you somewhat confident? Those numbers get closer, and a majority of Republicans have some level of confidence. But by and large, Democrats are more confident. Here's the question I want to look at. Look at this. Should your candidate, if they lose, concede Now, look at that. Democrats, 64% say definitely, my candidate should concede if they lose. Republicans, just 39% say definitely. 42% aren't so sure. And I have to say, even that number from Democrats saying only 2/3 of Democrats say my candidate should definitely concede, I mean, that's very different than, let's say, 10, 20 years ago, and it's something that's happening right now. So we'll be watching these candidates, and voters are going to be watching them closely, too.
That's an essential tenet of this democracy.
That's right.
People concede when they've lost an election.
You see that loss of confidence based on who wins or loses.
Yeah, very worrying.
Yeah.
Very worrying. Lisa Desjardins, thank you.
You're welcome.